Look how dark they are.
Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mike, the old fish hobo for Northwest School of Fly Fishing. I want to talk to you today about a specific midge pattern we use for midge hatches. And it's called a suspended midge pupa. It's probably, in my experience, it can be or is probably the most effective midge pattern for an emergence or hatch that I have. It's my go-to pattern. And because there's a lot of reasons why anglers really struggle during a midge hatch. And one of the biggest reasons I get from the folks that come to me is during a midge emergence or hatch, the river's full of rising fish, and the fish are eating these midges. Is when they cast their midge out in the river and having it drift down along, they can't see where it is. They don't even know where it is, and they're oftentimes setting on a strike and there's no fish on it. So not being able to see where their midge pupa is on the water is really difficult for them, and it is for anybody when you think about it. And the pattern that I'm talking about, or the midge pattern that I'm talking about, is a suspended midge pupa, and it has a brilliant poly white wing on it. And the fly itself can be divided into two parts, the wing and the body. Now, the body of the midge pupa looks like a real midge pupa, and the wing is just straight up white poly. What that means is that when I cast that out, the midge pupa part of it is in or just under the meniscus, and the white wing is on the surface. Now I can see where my fly goes. And the technique that I use is then I drop behind it at about 7 or 8 inches a midge pupa pattern, and that's the one we can't see. So as you're floating along a river like that, I can actually track where the two midges are, and where that wing pops out of the water, I know that my midge pupa is right behind it, and I can track it all the way. And typically what I see is right behind the suspended midge pupa, I see the take. I physically see it, the take. Or if that midge pupa just goes down a little bit, sometimes I don't see the fish take it, but the winged or suspended midge goes underwater. And now I have full control over what's in front of me. So to understand a little bit how this works, we first have to talk about a midge pupa. When we're talking about nymph fishing, you can't equate it to any other type of aquatic insect that you're really fishing, because a midge is a larva that lives in the substrate or mud, and they're little worms. And when it's time for them to go through a metamorphosis and turn into a winged adult, they actually do it in their little burrows. That's where the transformation takes place. So they go from a worm into a pupa. Now, inside that pupa is a fully developed midge fly with wings and everything. It's in that pupa. And think of that pupa, think of it as a sleeping bag. And it's a little black thing, and it's covered up, and it's full of gas, and it moves these emergent midge pupa now to the surface. So at the surface, a midge pupa looks identical to what it looks like on the substrate as it started to move its way up. So we can nymph fish with a midge pupa, and we can dry fly fish with a midge pupa. That's really what the trout are seeing, are these emergent midge pupas in the surface film, in the meniscus, all coming at them, and they're just picking them off like that. So that's the first real stage we're talking about. And the second stage is when they actually crawl out of their sleeping bags, and they're on the surface, and their wings are laid right back, and that shuck is behind them. That's kind of the part we're talking about right now with the suspended midge pupa. At that point, when they're fully out, they just kind of skitter for a second or two, and off they go. So really what the trout really keys on is that little emergent midge pupa on most rivers. And that's what the suspended midge really does, is it helps you key in on where your midge pupa is on the water, and knowing that it is a midge pupa that you have there, and you can actually see it. So instead of just casting an emergent midge pupa out on the surface and not being able to see it, you're casting a midge pupa out on the surface where you can see it. So what the trout sees under the water, it sees very clearly, and it looks like the dropper midge pupa that I have on. So he's really looking at two midges at the same thing. He doesn't know there's a wing right there, or he can see the wing and assume that's part of the emergence that's happening on the surface. There's a million midge patterns out there, literally a million midge patterns. And this one here is really, from an entomological standpoint, really spot on. Recently, I was on the upper Malad River, in the upper canyon section, and I'd gotten there, and I'm standing on the road, and I could see a fish rise every once in a while. So I found a really good spot that I could get down into, and I walked down in there, and I stood there for about 10 minutes, and I could see just an occasional rise on the river. I couldn't see any aquatic insects on the water at all. No adults at all, just a sporadic rise. And that was the key for me, especially this time of the year. They're either eating a blue-winged olive size 22 or they're eating a midge. So I knew right what I was going to do. So I tied on an emergent midge pupa, or suspended midge pupa. I tied that on and set the pupa, little pupa size 22 behind it, and I rolled that out, and I could see that. Now the Malad River can be pretty rough. It's moving constantly, and when you think of something like a size 22 is going to sink underwater, and it will, but what that suspended poly wing does is it keeps it up there, and you'd be surprised how that little white poly wing can sustain itself in that moving water, but it does. So it just gives me that really nice movement of what my midges are doing on the surface. So I roll it out there blindly and let it lay on that nice little seam there, and I just watched it go down the river, and sure enough, boom, I saw the splash and immediately knew that I was on. I saw the splash, I could see the suspended emerger near the splash, knowing that it took the midge pupa dropper, and I immediately set, and that's how it went, one after the other. It wasn't sporadic. I just saw a few fish rise here and there, and after a while things got kind of slow. I just sat down on a rock somewhere and I just waited. Well, things calmed down, and then sure enough went right back at it again. I didn't have to move up and down the river. This is the first week of March. Trout have been seeing midges all winter long. And one single midge can have up to 9 broods in a year. So they're constantly emerging throughout the winter. And I'd venture to say, if it wasn't for the midge, we wouldn't have any trout, because there's nothing to eat in the wintertime. So the whole moral of this video, or the whole point of this video, is to alert you or to educate you on this one particular pattern, a suspended midge pupa. And you can find them. Some shops have them, some don't. For you fly tiers, it's really easy to tie. You just take some white poly and you tie it on on your hook and trim it to the right size, and then tie your black thread-based body, and you have it. It's that simple. So I can find some similar patterns out there. Smoke jumper and a few other things they have out there. It's the same thing. You might have to take some scissors and trim around, or you can tie it yourself, or you can look on the internet and see, maybe you can find something if your local fly shop doesn't have it. But it's a relatively easy fly to tie. It's certainly effective on almost every river that I fish in the Northwest, and it's my go-to pattern. Now I have a rod locker on my on my truck. And I just keep my rods in there. And in the wintertime, I pull it out, my dry fly rod, and it has those two patterns on there. It's a go-to pattern that really well. The only thing that I need to really be spot on with this is the size. So, and I don't mean the size of the pattern, meaning I have that suspended Midge Pupa pattern in anywhere from a size 18 to a size 26. So when I'm on the river, that's where I'm experimenting, is exactly what size are the midge that these trout are seeing. And once I get that, and then I key in on it. So that would be the only really hard difficulty. So if you're on a river, if it's in sometime in excuse me, late fall, winter, or early spring, and fish are rising, you can't see anything on the water, more likely it's a strong indication that they're sipping these little midge pupa in the surface film. And now you've been alerted, start working on these, get some, tie some, whatever you do, put them in your box, because they catch fish. Somewhere, hopefully, this spring, I'll see you on the river.